Hi there. So this is meant to be our first session where we're going to be discussing Excel for data and AI. When we're talking about technology and analytics, we are usually trying to avoid Excel as much as possible, but we do need to know it, right? Because for all reports that we are building, for AI solutions that we are creating, the end user eventually are going to ask, well, but can I export that to Excel? Can I use that in Excel? That happens very often, and we have to fix that. We have to be able to understand that and understand why would they need to put that in Excel, for which reasons they would be choosing to export this table to Excel, right? How they're going to perform further analysis over in Excel. And how can I make my solution closer to that so this need to export to Excel is smaller and facilitated as much as possible within the solutions that we're building. Also, we might need ourselves to run some analysis in Excel. So what has happened to me is at times I had data that I needed to check. Databricks information in my Lakehouse platform compared to the file that the end user provided. The only way to test that and to see if that was matching was to have the data in the same place. So I had to export the data from my Lakehouse into an Excel file so I could compare with the Excel file from the user and then be able to see if the information was okay. And if I wasn't aware of how to do that in Excel, I wouldn't be able to do this testing. So it's very important that we know how to use Excel for data analytics, and that's a little of what I want to be teaching and explaining over here. Okay, so let's get it started. First of all, I have this financial sample. It's pretty simple. The same sample you can get when opening Power BI. You can connect to this directly. It's this exact same file. So it's a sample for financial information, and it's pretty simple. I have some columns over here. So I have some category columns such as segment, country, product, discount band. And then I have some of the values, right? Units sold, the manufacturing price, sales price, gross sales, discounts, sales, COGS, and profit. And then I have information related to date. So date, month number, month name, and year. Okay. That's the data that we have. That's the base information that we have. Now there are lots of things we could do with Excel and with analytics. I'll be showing a few of these possibilities just to get us started and to have this standard knowledge over Excel capabilities and usage for analytics. First of all, if I select my entire table, I could do shortcut. I could just select the entire table. Either way, I can go into format as a table and select one of these formats. You could be thinking that this is just formatting related, but it's not. In Excel, you have cells, and every cell is an address, right? C3, C4, D7. All of those are addresses to specific locations. Now, the entire set of columns and rows to this table, there's no proper name for it, right? Because it's a lot of cells. You could say that it's a cell interval, but still you don't have a name for it, a specific address to it. If we do format as a table, we are adding the table property over here, and then this table that we're selecting here has name, right? So if I go into the formula or the data panel, I can take a look into my name manager in the formulas panel. And then here you can see that this is a table. Oh, sorry, it's not appearing the pop-up over there. But I can see that I have a name for this specific table, right? That this table is here. How can I check that? I can go into any other cell in my Excel file and simply select either the header, so you can see that's a name, so it's the financials table, and then you're selecting the headers year, or the month name, or the month number. If you're selecting the entire column, you're not getting only the header, you're getting financials, name of the table, right? And then you're getting all, and then the column year. So from the table financials, all of what you have, the column year. And then if you selected the entire table, right, what you're going to be looking at is financials all, because you're getting the entire financials table. So the name of this table is financials, right? So it's when we format as a table, we are more than just changing formatting, colors, and borders. We are also providing a proper name for the cell interval that we can reference later. There's more that happens when we do that, right? So if I go over here, right at the end of the table, to create a new column, let me check something. Yeah, to create this new column, manufacturing, amount. Whenever I just type it, you can see that it's automatically creating this as a new column within the table. So now if I do a reference to this column, it's already working within that table structure, which means that this table, when formatted as a table, can proceed to continue and have this structure for analytics and for feeding information and for adding information. So whenever you do something to it, like in here, unit sold times the manufacturing price, so I can check how much that is. I can do that not making references to cells only, but making references to the columns within this Excel file. If you know Power BI, you can realize that this is very, very similar to what we do in DAX for calculated columns and so on. So something that we can reutilize from there. As much as I can add a new column, and this will keep the table structure, I could add a new row over here. So I'm adding a new row. So this is government. I will put in Mexico. And now I will put in this other car, right? And I could simply add information, and this row now is included in the table. I don't have to be stretching and trying to make the table adjust, copying formatting settings. No, it's all automatic. So the table continues to grow and continues to have all of what I need. If I want to delete a row such as this, I can use shift space for the shortcut to select the entire row, and do control minus, and that will subtract the row from the table automatically and adapt to it. So that's pretty nice. The same thing goes with a column. If I wanted to, I can simply do control space, select the entire column, control minus, and it will subtract that, will remove that column from the table. So that's something very interesting we can do over here. Okay, so that's one of the functionalities. Other things like multiplying and creating calculations with Excel, such as multiplications or sum or a VLOOKUP or stuff like that, I will not talk about. Okay, I understand that it's more of an Excel learning thing, and the focus of that we have over here is to talk about Excel for analytics. Okay, so we're not talking about Excel in general. I don't want to go over all of the possible formulas and everything. I just want to talk about Excel for analytics. Okay, so now that we have this table and we understand that it's formatted and that it works for analytical purposes, I can try using it for analysis, such as now that I have selected the table, going to insert and inserting a pivot table. I will do it in a new worksheet, okay? And clicking OK, I have my pivot table over here. So with this pivot table in this place, let me have some space. With this pivot table over here, I can select the fields that I have in the table to build my pivot table. Okay, the pivot table in Excel is the same thing as the matrix in Power BI. And of course, for all of the references I'm making to Power BI, we're going to learn that in the Power BI part of this course as well. So for my pivot table here, I can be selecting any of my fields and values to create it, such as adding year and then month name, right? Or month number. I prefer. Good. And then I can add the values, such as my total gross sales. So this is the sum of the gross sales for the specific month and year that I'm looking at. And this is how most people, without, of course, a good analytics structure, that's how they do their analysis. That's how they analyze their information. And they will be doing this different pivot tables the same way they have this. They can go over, copy, and paste. And now, oh, now I don't want to do it by month anymore, right? I want to do it by product. So I want to evaluate it by product and how much I'm selling for each. So then, as they have this flexibility here of selecting whatever fields they want and filtering whatever they want, right? I haven't done, but I can also add filters here. So I could go and filter one of the countries and check that information that way. And as that is easy for most of the business user, they will like to do this way, so they have control over what they are analyzing. Of course, you can build this exact same table in Power BI and in other analytical tools. Of course, you can make this type of numbers available over an AI solution such as Fabric Data Agents or Databricks Genie, or using any other LLM and more logic, of course, involved. But they will want to go back to this and understand how this is, because that's what they're used to. Okay, now that we know this, we understand that it's no good for me to just try to force them using the charts that we can create in a Power BI report without providing them the same structure of what they're used to have, right? So for example, if I go here and into analyzing this, I can add a pivot chart, right? So let's keep it simple in a column chart. And right, so I can build this exact same table, but now in this column chart. And here, let me make it a little bigger. So they don't want to look at this chart necessarily, because they are used to their pivot table, right? So if I go into Power BI, I make a chart just like this. I can make it really nice. I can add the filters. I can add a good title. I can make the labels pretty clear and do all of that nice analytics that is possible to be done in Power BI and other analytical tools. They are not going to be happy with it because it doesn't look like what they're used to have. So if you are in the early stages of adoption in analytics in your company, right? So you're growing in maturity yet. It's better for you to build visuals such as this using the matrix visual, using the table visual, making very simple filters so users can be looking at things that they are very uh, used to rather than doing a chart such as this pivot chart here where they're going to look to information, they will understand it, it's the exact same number, but still they don't feel comfortable. Okay, so that's an important piece to understand about Excel and how end users are using Excel for their analytics, because this is what they do. This is how they use it, and that's why they ask you to export the files, the tables to Excel, so they can do things like this. And if you just try to cut them out or not to provide them information that they are used to have, they are not going to adopt the solutions you're trying to provide. So knowing how to use this is very nice and very important and helpful. Now, one last thing for us to discuss into the Excel piece is that all that we learn into Power BI and Power Query is something that we can reutilize into Excel. So if I wanted to do changes to this and integrate this with other files, other sources, other places, I can go into the data panel and I can do from table range, which is going to open my Power Query to work with this information. And then I have Power Query in my Excel and all of the Power Query applied steps logic available to me so I can work with this in my solutions. It's helpful, it's something very good, and then you can integrate all of your logic into these Excel files. Of course, it's not something that you won't be doing all the times. You don't want to be using Excel to connect to databases and things like that, as that will, of course, uh, jeopardize performance and maintenance for you. But still, it's very nice that you can do that, that you can go over to Power Query, that you can work with Power Query within this Excel environment, okay? So we're going to have the Power BI course next, and then after the Power BI course, and after we learn Power Query into Power BI, we can have a session over Excel with Power Query together, okay? So that's it. That's what we have to learn about Excel for data analytics, things we need to learn, how users are actually using it on a daily basis, and why do we need to be able to export information and make it simple for the end users. That will be a huge factor in analytics adoption and the success of your data platform. Okay, thank you very much. See you next.